So TF2 effects, let's get into that. They are basically, can't get them. No more. Done. What I mean by that is, have you ever just tried to get an unusual that's just worth your money, you know? Because you can buy a masked flies crap to your hat. You just probably wasted 10 bucks. 12, 15 bucks on something that's not even really worth it. And you could argue, yeah, I'll save up for a mid-tier hat, but even is that good? Okay, so I've noticed some people stay with an unusual for, you know, a long time, either it be mid, low, high, and if that's so, good on you. You are doing God's work. Thank you. But for most of the community, I feel like if you get an unusual, it's one that you want to show off that's, you know, flashy and stuff like that. And you can make the argument of like TF2 effects, you know, they don't provide skill. Obviously, that's not true. Have you ever seen someone running around with flipping 3 tier hats, like 3 effects on a hat?
Hey, look at me, Mom!
Those guys will destroy you. Basically, TF2 effects are just not worth it anymore. Not worth it. Have you ever tried to get a old effect? You gotta spend money, and that would make sense. But the thing is, you get an old tier hat, right there, an old tier hat with an old tier effect. You have to shell out $100 on the virtual pixels. And then if you want to get a god tier hat with the same good effect, you're gonna have to mortgage your house, buddy. Basically, effects just aren't that worth it now. I used to be an unusual trader and collector, and I've been basically everything with unusuals at this point. And I'm not gonna deny they look really cool. Some effects aren't worth it, some effects are worth it, you know, you can basically argue that, whatever. I think overall though, in this point in time, my opinion has changed, and it's just not worth getting an unusual unless you really think you want one and you have the money. Spending $100 on a hat in a game versus spending $100 on food, you go for the hat, you go for the food. What you don't want to do is spend money on an unusual. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is farewell to all the unusual effects, and my goodbye parting gift is going to be, well, I'm going to be showing you which ones would be the best value for your money and which one would be the worst value for your money if you want to buy one. To help you out, because I know some people out there are just going to be like, oh, this guy sucks. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm going to be doing another tier list. Go check out part 1 if you haven't seen that. That's a little bit less, you know. Go check that one out if you want to see the first gen effects, which ones traders and myself think are the best. That could help you out to choose an unusual. But let's get right into the tier list. Okay, so I have already ranked the generation 1 and 2 effects, but this time I'm gonna be ranking gen 3 and the first 2 Halloween effects. They aren't Scream Fortress technically. This was special Halloween effects before they did Scream Fortress effects, but we're just gonna be ranking those first. And you know, you got money, we can all agree, good, and then e-waste. Okay, so we're gonna be ranking gen 3 first, and let's start off with the old beloved Aces High. Now, honestly, I'm not a hater on it. I actually kind of like it. I know in a lot of people's eyes it's not good, and in my opinion, I think it's fairly decent. So I'm gonna have to put it, honestly, I think at eh. I don't think it's necessarily e-waste, because there are far worse ones than Aces High. And Aces High is also team colored, so it's got that a little bit going for it. So I think it's just gonna be eh for now. Next we have Cloud9. I think, yep, Cloud9. We have Cloud9. This, as much as it's kind of unnoticeable and the hearts are kind of like dim a bit, I think it's good. And I think a lot of other traders do too, mainly because it's cheap and it still looks decent, you know? It may not be the flashiest effect, but it's very subtle and has that going for it. It's a really like just kind of clean looking effect, and I think it goes well with some hats and most hats actually, so it's gonna be good. Now this is Dead Presidents. Depending which trader you ask, it's either gonna be above or below Aces High. I think A lot of traders put it below because it's kind of more basic and it doesn't have the team color going for it. It's just not as good in some eyes of traders as Aces High. So we're gonna put it there. Okay. Next, we have Disco Beatdown. Now this one, since we're just doing a list full of these, it's gonna be a little bit more to the higher side. Disco Beatdown. I think this one is honestly worth the money, and here's why. It is an oversaturated effect. Everyone in the mom and dog has this effect, but you have to admit, it is a very beautiful effect. It's really stunning and it goes pretty much well on each hat, and it's cheap. It is really worth the money if you're going to invest in it. Now, you won't be able to probably get a very high tier hat with this effect because that will cost a lot of money, but you can get cheap hats at a very good price with Disco Beatdown because it's just a very oversaturated effect, and that's a good thing because this effect is amazing. Kilowatt. Now this one, I think it's actually pretty good. I don't think it's in We Can All Agree. I think it's below Cloud9, but it is really, I think it's a good effect. I don't know if I would personally spend money on a high tier version of this, probably just a low tier. Next one, we have Miami Nights. This one, I have to admit, it's probably We Can All Agree. I think in most traders' eyes though as well, it's definitely below Disco Beatdown, but I think it is above Cloud9 and Kilowatt, most definitely. It's not just good, I think it's a We Can All Agree, so I'm gonna leave it there for right now. And the last one for Gen 3 is gonna be Terawatt. Now Terawatt, in my opinion, I think it is way better than Kilowatt. If I would put it here, if this was an opinion tier list on what I think, but in most traders' eyes, it is below Kilowatt, sadly, depending how you view it, so it's gonna go behind Kilowatt. Now onto the very scary Halloween effects. These, I'm not gonna lie, most of them will just be pretty bad. I don't think they're the best. They're actually probably the worst out of all the Halloween effects, and that is Cauldron Bubbles. It's very overpriced, inflated, because it's an old effect and not many of it exists on so many hats. So honestly, I'm gonna put Cauldron Bubbles, and a lot of people probably put it at e-waste. I don't think it's worth the money if you want to get this effect, if you want to be flashy or whatever. I don't really think it's worth it. A lot of people don't either. So next we have Flaming Lantern. This one is definitely above, in my opinion, Cauldron Bubbles, but I think it is also e-waste because the only thing you kind of notice is just a ball of fire going around your head. If you get close, you can see like a lantern going around your head. Looks very and almost similar to Orbiting Fire right here. So it's also going to be e-waste. Next one, we have Eerie Orbiting Fire. I bet you can know where this is going to go. Straight in e-waste. I honestly think, and a lot of traders do, this is worse than Cauldron Bubbles. I just think it looks very unappealing, and it's very like not noticeable in dark spots of the map. It's just, I wouldn't waste money on it. Don't do that. So now on the last one of this generation, we have Cloudy Moon. Guys, this effect, although it is very overpriced in some hats, I think it is good. And I think it definitely goes above the rest of these. And that's mainly because even though it is overpriced, it is actually a clean looking effect. And it doesn't have a lot of flash to it. It's just like a moon and a cloud of, night clouds. So I think it is really good. I can put it at good. I don't think it's but I'm putting it at good because I think in some cases it can be worth it if you can find like a low tier hat with this effect. It's still going to be decently expensive, but it's a good looking effect, so that will make up for it. Okay, for this last one, we have Spectral Halloween Special. Now for these are getting into the higher tier ones. I think these ones are just flat out good. We have Knife Storm. This one, depending who you ask, is either the ugliest effect and just trash or the best effect. So seeing as it's divided, I'm going to put my own personal opinion in it, and I'm going to put it at We Can All Agree. But I've actually owned a Knife Storm, and it was on a low tier hat, and goodness gracious, the hat was ugly, but this effect, I love it. It may be a little bit over the top, but I think it is very cool looking, so it's going there. The next one we have is It's a Secret to Everybody. This one right here, a lot of people like it more than Knife Storm. It does look a lot more clean, so I'm gonna have to put it probably above Knife Storm, and We Can All Agree this is a pretty good effect. It's definitely above it. Still not money though, because it's just not worth spending thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars on if you just want unusual just to play around with and sell it later. So next one on this list is Misty Skull. Now this one, I don't think it's that good, and honestly I don't think in a lot of eyes of traders compared to the other ones in this generation, it's not that good either. I'm gonna have to put it surprisingly at mainly because if you're gonna spend those thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars on effect, why not go for Knife Storm or any of these above it? Because as long as this does look cool, but it just kind of looks out of place on certain hats and even in certain maps, because it's just like a skull floating around you. It just basically looks like you just got an achievement above your head. I don't think it's honestly that good and looks out of place, so it's probably going in honestly. The next one we have is Stormy 13th Hour. This one is definitely better looking than It's a Secret to Everybody, but I think this one is also more expensive, so I'm gonna put it at the top of good for that reason. And that leads us on to our last one, Harvest Moon. Now this one, I actually haven't seen much, many people wearing it or many discussions on it, and I personally haven't had this effect either on an unusual, so I'm just gonna put my own personal opinion on it since I haven't seen much discussion topics about it. I'm gonna put it in at probably good, and I'll probably put it at low tier good, just because I don't think it's as good as these to shell out money on, but it's definitely above Misty School because it does look kind of good and clean, but I don't think it's worth spending that much money on, so that's where it's gonna stay. Anyway guys, that leads us on to the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'm trying to go a little bit slower because I just want to kind of get thing out, but if you guys enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate if you check out the Discord. It would be really cool to chat with you all, and I will be hosting more like community stuff on there and maybe even some raffles or giveaways on there, so why not check it out? Why not join in the link in the description? But ultimately, it's up to you. This is part 2 to the very first one I made, so go check that out if you want. I'll see you guys later, hopefully in the next tier list. Peace.